Welcome, everyone. This is Joe Infante, founder of LegalReviews.org. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Lyle Masnikoff, Esquire. We're going to spend the next 15 minutes or so going over his practice, how he handles his clients and his practice differently than perhaps other attorneys that he faces, and I think it will be very informative for all of you considering his law specialty. So, Lyle, welcome.
Well, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you, Lyle, for having us. Just sort of I have a series of questions for you, and some of them are going to be easy, other or maybe a little bit more challenging, but it's really the benefit here is for you to better communicate how you're different than other attorneys. So first of all, what made you want to become an attorney?
When I was in middle school and obviously coming up through the ranks, we had attorneys come to our school from the local law school, and they wanted to do like mock trials, like fake trials, and kind of teach the aspects of the law to the kids. And then at the end, we would have a fake trial where everyone would get an opportunity to either be an attorney or be a witness. And I really, at a young age, enjoyed that process and learning how it all worked. And that really is what geared me towards going into the law. Understood.
And why don't you share with us a little bit about your educational background and, how long have you been an attorney, et cetera?
Sure. I've been an attorney for 14 years, and I have a Bachelor's of Science degree from Nova Southeastern University, which is in Fort Lauderdale. And I got that degree in 1998, and I got a degree in accounting. Initially, I thought maybe I'd be a tax attorney or a bankruptcy attorney, something that had to do with financial items or financial lawsuits, things like that. And I went on to law school after that and graduated in Nova Southeastern in 1998. And when I was in law school, I was able to work for different law firms, including a bankruptcy and tax law firm. And I did that for probably about a year or so while I was still in law school. And I really didn't like it as much as I thought I was going to like it before I went in and got the degree and all that kind of stuff. So I started looking at different avenues, and I was able to work for now who's the current judge, but I was able to work for him when he was an attorney, and I was able to learn a lot about personal injury, negligence, contracts, and learn a bunch of different other areas of the law, which was fantastic for me. So I really enjoyed that, and that's really what kind of shaped me going into workers' compensation, because I had already dealt with the medical portions of the law. I had dealt a lot with different types of lawsuits regarding personal injury. And workers' comp, they're somewhat similar in that respect, although the procedures in the law is obviously much different.
Understood. And do you find that your accounting background and sort of, I would say, ease with numbers has helped you in terms of dealing with these types of cases?
Absolutely. When we deal with workers' compensation, a lot of times you don't think about how much numbers are involved, but from the very beginning of the case, we're calculating, how much money the person was making before the accident, how much money they're supposed to be getting paid every week from the insurance company, how much money the insurance company actually owes them. We got to calculate penalties, interest. So that has been very helpful for me, and a lot of attorneys that don't have that background get lost in the calculations and the math part of it that most people that go to law school are going to law school because they're not interested in math.
Interesting. So I would imagine that that's a huge differentiator for you in terms of other attorneys that some of your prospects may be considering, correct?
Absolutely. I still do a lot of, my own personal calculations. with every case, and I make sure that, our clients are getting paid what they're supposed to be getting paid, because many times the insurance company, an adjuster who calculates it, or another attorney who represents the insurance company calculates it, may not be correct. So just because a person is getting a check from the insurance company and has been for a number of years doesn't mean that amount is correct. And a lot of times we go back and we find out that the person that we now represent, who had been getting checks for a long time, is actually owed a lot of back pay, along with penalties and interest. So we go and get that back money for them.
Interesting. And now let's turn to sort of a related topic, but more about on a day-to-day basis. What would you consider to be the one thing out of your day that you find the most exciting, or your favorite thing to do, whether it be in the courtroom or lazing with other attorneys? I mean, what is it exactly?
We do a lot of what they call mediations, where we try to help get some type of agreement in place between the parties. And so what happens is probably at least maybe once or twice a day we have these mediations, maybe even as much as, I'd say 7 to 10 a week. But basically what we're trying to do is see if we can't come to some type of resolution of whatever we're fighting about. Because, people see court on TV and it's not really how it is. And unfortunately, when you go to court, there's always going to be somebody who's unhappy with the judge's decision. And so the way to avoid the risk is to get all the parties together and try to resolve either the things we're fighting about, the issues, the lost wages, the medical treatment, or come up with a settlement where both parties can live with the amount of money that's being offered, and then everybody can kind of go their own way. And what is very interesting is many of the times in new mediations, we have bring in former judges to help both parties so that we educate the clients so that they know what their rights are, what their risks are, and ultimately the client is going to make the final decision, but obviously you can give them advice and our experience of what we've seen over the last 15 years of what could happen and what couldn't happen. So it's a really good opportunity for someone to take the control of their case and not leave it in somebody else's hands. So that's kind of what I enjoy doing the most.
That sounds like a very fair approach, and I would imagine there's other court costs that you save by taking the mediation route, I assume.
Absolutely, and one of the big changes in the law, when the law's changed many times, but in 2003 when the law changed the last time, one of the big changes was that if you did go to court and you did lose, then that you might now be responsible for the cost of defending whatever claim that you were bringing. And so sometimes people have to understand that you can go to court, but if you lose, not only do you not get the thing that you really wanted, but now you might end up having to pay the other side's costs, which can, be substantial. So we do take that into account when we're making these decisions as to which course to go forward with and make sure we make the appropriate decision. That's
an excellent point. Now let me turn to your client base. Who would you describe to be your ideal client, if there's such a thing for you?
Our ideal client is anyone who has been injured on the job, and we represent, pretty much all different facets of the workforce. So we represent teachers who get injured when they're picking up a student. Maybe they trip or fall at school. We represent police officers. We represent firefighters. We represent construction workers, cooks, waitresses, nurses. Anybody who is working that had an accident is eligible to get medical treatment and lost wages. And people don't think that they're going to get hurt at work. That's not something that we normally think about. But anything can happen from a very small injury, you cut your finger while you're a cook in the kitchen, to very severe injuries where we've represented police officers who've been shot. So, and unfortunately some people, die while working, and that's obviously the extreme case. But from anywhere from very small injuries to, the most extreme case, we've been able to help those people get the benefits that they're entitled to under the law.
Interesting. Now, this is always a challenging question, but I feel to be fair to the process, I need to ask it. What do you consider to be your biggest weakness, or something that you wouldn't suggest a potential client to come to you about, because that's not just where your strengths lie?
Obviously, I always think, and probably most attorneys think, that they are well up on the law and do their craft, to the best of their ability, which is what I believe that I do. I'm sure everybody has a weakness, and we try to make it better. Maybe one of my weaknesses is just trying to make sure that I am able to answer every question that people have, and it's very difficult when people have questions that are outside of workers' comp and which are tied into workers' comp. We obviously do Social Security disability, so we answer a lot of those questions. People might have employment issues where they get fired or they're owed wages for not being paid properly for overtime, and other wrongful terminations. So my biggest weakness is probably that, because we do focus on workers' comp and Social Security, that I don't know the other areas of the law as much as I'd love to, and be able to tie those in. And what happens is, a lot of times we refer our clients out to those attorneys who do specialize just in those areas to make sure that we don't miss anything. So I guess my biggest weakness is just not knowing the other areas of the law that sometimes people run into. And obviously we try to learn and talk to those attorneys as much as we can, and ultimately make sure our clients are protected by dealing with those additional attorneys.
Right. Well, I would imagine you suffer from what single practitioners, which is there's only so much one person could do, or sort of a practice of your size in terms of the different practice areas. But my next question was going to be, how are you improving that weakness? And you already answered it by suggesting that you have other competent attorneys that you have good relationships with, that should you need to go into other areas of the law where perhaps you're not as strong in, you actually seek out their advice or actually have them get involved in the process.
Absolutely. I don't, I've been doing workers' comp for, 14 years, and Social Security, so I'm very versed in those areas, but I don't try to claim to be an expert in other areas, and it's very difficult to know every area of the law like the back of your hand, because the law changes constantly. And so we do try to make sure that our clients are getting the appropriate help. If it's in an area that I'm not as familiar or don't handle on a day-to-day basis, I'm going to make sure that I get those clients to attorneys that I trust, attorneys that we use all the time, that can handle those particular cases and, make sure that our clients' best interests are protected.
Sounds great. And, along those lines, you seem to have a lot of great qualities as an attorney and seem to have built quite a nice reputation. What would you say, Lyle, is your biggest strength?
My biggest strength is that I'm always accessible to my clients. Our clients are going through difficult times when they get injured and they're not getting paid the proper amount, or they're in a lot of pain. So, I get a lot of phone calls and make sure that I return those phone calls, make sure that my client understands what the law is and understands how the process is going to be. We want to, walk our clients through every step of the process. It's not just me. I have, 2 other attorneys and a staff of 10, and I can't do it alone. And I make sure that me, my attorneys, and my staff understand that our client is the most important person in this case. A lot of times attorneys get lost in that fact and don't return phone calls, don't return emails, don't return texts, and we try to be as accessible to our clients and get right back to them, because we want to make sure that they're comfortable with the process and make sure that they get what they're entitled to under the law.
That sounds like the right approach. Now, it seems that you're very hands-on in terms of running your practice. How do you like operating a practice?
I do. I like it very much. It gives me the opportunity to know what's going on a day-to-day basis, not only with our clients, but with the paralegals and the attorneys and the secretaries, and to make sure that not only are our clients being treated well, but the employees everything is okay with them, and they know what everybody's job responsibilities are. Make sure that the attorneys that we deal with, that our clients, we have to send them to for certain areas of the law, different areas of the law. We make sure that we keep good relationships with them. So it makes it easier that I am involved in it on a day-to-day basis, because it just makes the process smoother. And if I wasn't involved in every aspect, then something might get lost in the shuffle, and I don't want my clients to be any negative impact because of my not being involved.
Understood. Now, if you could change one thing about your business's day-to-day routine, what would it be? And what I mean by that is that I see other attorneys now introducing more and more technology into the way that they disseminate information, whether it be through webinars or what have you. Do you find that having to be, let's say, the face and delivering the information to every single potential client creates bottlenecks, or how are you using technology to maybe streamline some of these routines?
Obviously, technology has come a long way over the years, and we have embraced that. We have been using social media, Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and all the different areas that you can use. We send out newsletters to our clients. We send out letters to our clients giving them updates on the law and things that we're doing. We try to use it to our advantage, because it makes it much easier and cost-effective to disseminate the information to our clients and the people who need the information. So we do one thing that we are trying to do is use technology more and be on the cutting edge of the new items that come out. Obviously, with Social Security and workers' comp, we see a lot of video hearings with judges and mediators and things like that. So we do try to make it easy on our clients so they don't have to travel 20 minutes, half an hour, when they could appear at home or appear via a video of some sort. So we do try to embrace that as much as possible to help our clients.
Excellent, excellent. Now, just the last question I had for you, and that's really as to, if you had a chance to say one thing to a brand new client before they walked in the door, what would it be? And what I mean is, what would you tell a potential client or someone that's facing some type of injury or workers' comp issue that you could help them in terms of preparing them for the process they're starting to engage in? What would you tell them?
The workers' comp system is a very slow system, and we try to speed it up as much as we can. And one of the ways that we do that is by staying in contact with the claimant constantly, and that means, taking phone calls, taking faxes, emails. What we want to try to do is, if they're getting medical treatment, we want to know, right there and then what happened at the doctor's office that day. What did the doctor recommend? Get us a copy of the prescription of what the doctor's recommending, so that we can try to get whatever the doctor's recommending as set up as soon as possible. Because a lot of times we hear complaints that people are waiting for a prescription to be filled, or waiting for the specialist to be authorized, or an MRI or physical therapy, and we try to avoid those delays and try to get our clients the medical treatment. So the biggest thing is really staying in communication. Some clients, they come to our office, they drop off the prescription right after appointment. Some will fax it, some will email it, some will just call us on the phone, and we'll call the doctor's office and get it. So we just want to make sure that we're all on the same page and know what's going on in the case every day.
Understood. Well, listen, Lyle, I don't want to take more of your time. This has been very generous of you to share all this insight with us, and we look forward to the next opportunity to gain more information from you as to things potential clients need to know about your part of the law and just the legal system generally. Thanks again, Lyle.
Well, thank you for having me, and any time that I can be of any help, I'll be glad to come back on.
Thanks again, Lyle. We'll speak soon.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.